So I'm going to be where the kids are. And no matter what building I'm in, I'm going to be where the biggest bulk of kids are. So when I was at main campus, I was in the center because I knew that's where all the kids are going to come. That's when I'm learning names. That's when I'm having conversation. That's when I'm having dialogue. Now at the 9th grade campus, I'm at them at door 1. When they enter, I'm having conversations. I'm actually looking at their body language and saying, are you okay? Everything's okay. Let me pull me to the side. Let's have a conversation. So the more and more that we have conversations, there I'm cracking jokes and they're cracking jokes on me, that we're building a strong relationship. So when there is an issue, there is a problem, they don't have an issue come and talk to me. Mr. Millner, this is what's going on in my class. Or Mr. Millner, this is what's happening. Or Mr. Millner, this is how I feel today. So I built that through continuous and ongoing conversations and relationships with those individuals.
First off, I appreciate you doing this always. Because like we just talked about, like for me, I felt like I learned how the work ethic that is necessary to be an administrator from you and Dr. Frazier. Us being at Brooklyn Middle School, putting together a summer program. In reality, if we think about that story, it wasn't supposed to be you and I. Right. It was actually supposed to be myself and someone else.
Yes.
Who I'm gonna say her name, Dr. Massenberg. Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to interviewing her as well. And then I didn't know you didn't know me. Frazier, I don't even think was in the picture yet. Then we got together, and then you were like, "Oh, look, I know this individual because we talking about spin and everything." And you got Frazier in, and I will say, as an educator, there's probably 3 times where I'm like, this impacted me as a professional and set me on a path to become an administrator. That time, that summer with y'all was that. So for everybody, this is the amazing Jeff Millner, and we're going to be interviewing him today on Hot Conversations with School Leaders.
I appreciate it. Definitely a great opportunity to be here. I appreciate everything that you've done, all the kind of things that you said, but I appreciate all the work that you've done to where you are in your career. So it's not about me, it's about you.
Yep, but it's about you today. So first question, you have been a teacher, you've been worked in special education, you have been an assistant principal, and you have been a principal. Walk us through the differences in each one of those roles and kind of how it prepared you to lead.
I think as a teacher, you knew you were leading individuals in your room. You had to come in every day prepared. You had to have a lesson plan. You had to know how to move certain things. And everybody, like I recently posted on my LinkedIn page, like every scholar in your building has a story. Mm-hmm. So every kid in my classroom had a story, and they came from a different background. So I had to know how to motivate, empower, and inspire those individuals to get the most out of them. Every kid in that classroom, they want to be great. My job is to help them to be great. And they also going to come in, they don't want to do something because with a SPED, I was self-contained English at that time. And a lot of kids, English is sometimes a big hit for a lot of our SPED kids, reading or writing. So really, how do you get them involved and engaged? So creating lessons that was, some culturally responsible lessons for them. And I think, creating a culture for them, creating a classroom environment for them, that want to help them to make them feel successful.
So then, like, taking that then, because again, in our work, one of the things that I noticed when we were working at Brooklyn Middle School was you have always been the type of individual, like, I got to know the kids. Right? Like, so it's not even though you look at data a lot, I think you were probably one of the first individuals that I looked at that was like, hey, when he talks about data, he's not just talking about percentages. He is actually talking about the kid themselves.
Right.
And that's a lot harder work than what I was used to. Like, just looking at the percentage, you can mask some things with the percentage. When you get to know the kids, you're getting to know their families. You're getting to know what makes them tick, what's their triggers, what makes them happy, what are the incentives that are necessary to get them to work. How, when you were as a special education teacher, how did that start to come together for you?
Well, I think as I moved to Highland Springs and started teaching there, it was a community-based environment as well. Mm. So therefore, parents have came through, some of the aunts and uncles and siblings that already came through. So just learning that culture and just really talking to kids. It really comes down to talking and listening to kids. Talk less, listen more. So when you listen more, you can pick up on certain things. So there are things that I might bring back 4 or 5 months down the road.
Mhm.
I do it now as an administrator. I might ask them a question about something that happened, at home, or like we got kids that play softballs, for the school, and I might ask, so how was did you have a travel softball game this weekend? Because I know like a lot of times in the holiday season they have games. So I'll ask those type of questions. Or if the family member, I learned something about the parent, I might say, hey, how's your mom doing? What's going on? How's your dad doing? And ask certain questions about that. And then they're like, how does he know that?
Yeah.
Because I remember.
Yeah.
I again, it's talk less, listen more.
Okay.
And I think that's really how you get people involved and engaged in what you're doing.
So what are some pivotal moments for you that shaped how you have become a leader? Some of us, we kind of hang around the same big names in terms of leaders, at least in this area. So what are some of the things that really pushed you to be like, hey, I'm going to take this person over here, I'm going to take from this person, and then create the leader who is Jeff Millner?
Well, I think it's always leading. Like you always are learning. I mean, you're always learning. You never stop learning. You might see individuals in a classroom that's doing something great, and you take that from them.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to Highland Springs, I was coaching, and I coached with a guy that's passed away now, but he was phenomenal with certain entities of coaching that I was able to take from him. I knew all the X's and O's. He knew a lot of the administrative background stuff. So I was like, okay, let me take that right here. Let me learn about this part, because I don't know that part. And I think, just going to different schools I've been, like, talking about the various areas I've been, going to Henrico, and being under Dr. Herb Monroe, I was able to learn a lot of more things, how to to motivate certain individuals, how to inspire, how to really look at data and really disaggregate that data to help individuals to understand we're missing a certain group. But I'm always learning from individuals. Always. Like yesterday, I was talking to our nurses, and I was just having a conversation, and I'm like, man, I'm sitting here learning about the AI.
Yeah.
Like learning. They talk about lifelong learners, and that's what you are. And when you pick it up, you're able to put it back into your repertoire. So again, even calling my dad, asking my dad for certain questions, because he was a pastor. So he knew working with certain people with different backgrounds and how to get them, doing certain things. So asking certain questions from him, I think was very, very important. But also getting around the leaders that I felt like I could learn from, that I might feel like, Desert, I might have a deficit right here. So let me get this. Or I might need to grow a little bit more in that area. Like it's okay. I'm doing okay in this area. So let me get it a little bit more, because I want to be great.
Yeah.
I work with kids, and their families send their best to me every day.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be great for them. It's not about me. It's about them.
Mm-hmm.
So being about them, I'm always learning. I'm always trying to take away. If it's reading a blog, if it's reading a book, I'm always asking questions, or being in the room with someone. I think that's the most important piece. And one of the associate principals working with Dr. Quinn Ballard, he said, you learn the right thing. If you learn the wrong thing, you know what not to do as well. So you can learn a little bit of both.
So I'm actually this define great. Like, because for some people, doing this job is you come in, as long as I make sure the kids are safe, as long as I hit certain markers, you're good to go. You go home, and work-life balance is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely don't want people to burn out. At the same time, something I learned from you all is, let's say I have 80% of our kids who are passing tests. Well, that is good.
That's great.
And it keeps you in the green and all the things that come with state accreditation.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, though, that also tells me, though, that there are 20% that didn't.
Right.
So then my mind is celebratory of what happens with them. But for me, great is I got to get that other 20%.
Right. Well, as we talk about that other 20%, I think a lot of times is, if that 20% isn't successful in passing by the state requirement, how did that kid grow? Was that kid a behavior issue? And now maybe they had 10 referrals the previous year. This year they only had 5. Or did they work really, really hard to really maximize everything that they had in their abilities? That's really what, for me, is going from good to great, is really getting everything out of everyone in the building.
I like that.
I think that's very important. I've had a young lady just recently, we'll use a story from recently, like in the beginning of the school year, how she was in my office, or in our office, a lot. And I told her, you're going to be one of my favorites. And she looked at me, because I knew she had several siblings and cousins that came through here. And I said, you're going to be one of my favorites. She looked at me and said, okay, Ms. Millner, whatever. But eventually we worked together and kept working and kept working. And I mean, she wasn't as successful far as reaching all of the requirements, but she passed an math assessment. She was so excited. She told us, she was the first one to tell us. And then she was able to get all her grades up. She was so excited. We were in a meeting working on some things and she came in and said, hey, I passed all my classes. So we didn't turn our heads. She said, hey, did you hear me? I passed all my classes. So she wanted to be recognized. So I think that's part of greatness. And I think when those kids reach it and say, I can do this, because a lot of kids come to the door and feel like they can't. And that's why sometimes you see them in the office a lot. You see them not academically succeeding. My job is to help them say, I can do this. If a C is the best I can do it. So it's about building upon brick by brick by brick. That means it's since, maybe it's this year's a 9th grade year, so 10th grade year, and then they got something to build on.
Yeah.
And it builds on from 11 to 12. I don't know what's going to happen with the kid when you build that momentum and that energy. It's really about building that energy. It's like building a teacher up too. When they start to see things like, oh, I can do this. I can work with this kid right here. I know how to really differentiate instruction. And how do I do this? This is what I got to do. Like, we have those conversations. It's really about working with people to really getting all of what they got. I mean, people are coming here. My job is to get everything that we can, and so they can be successful and help people to be, best that they can.
So the question as you were talking about that hit me was, what do you think are the most important qualities of an effective school leadership? You've talked about listening, right? I know that's big with you. Listen more, talk less. What are some other qualities for you? Like what would be your top 5?
That's a good question. I think my top 5, where I talked about listening, I think loving and liking the community, like really want the best was for the community, and being able to, and being present. Present meaning you're at, when kids come in our building, I'm one of the first ones they're going to see once they get off the bus. I'm going to speak to them. So I think being present is very important. It means going into classrooms as much as you can. So your calendar should kind of lead that right there, because being an instructional leader is very important. So your calendar kind of leads that. Also, I think having an open door, meaning kids, family members, teachers feel like they can come talk to you. But sometimes they'll also understand that we might not see eye to eye on everything, but we can leave here to agree to disagree, because, sometimes it's going to work your way and sometimes it won't, but I'm giving you 110%. I'm working within the guidelines that I have to play, the black and white I have to play within. So I think that's very important. But also, I think you're talking about listening, talking about being present, you're talking about having an open door policy. I think those are the 3. And I think also as a leader, you have to know how to unplug a little bit.
Okay.
I think when you say unplug, that means you got to know, because you can give this job 80 to 100 hours a day.
And still have stuff.
And you got more. I think you have to figure out ways to really, how am I going to eat healthy? I think that's important, because, you can come in a building and the cafeteria might take care of it, because they will. You might be in some buildings that like to eat a lot of pastries. They will.
Yep.
You've got to learn how to minimize some of those things. Like, how do I, bring my lunch, fix my lunch, or, how do I fix dinner so I can really meal prep? So when I come home, I can also maximize time with my family, because that's important. I think, for me, meal prep is important. So that's one thing that I like to do. But also it kind of maximizes time with my son.
Okay.
We don't have to think of it. I might cook 2 meals on a Sunday, or 2 meals on a Sunday, and we're going to know this is what we're going to do for the week. And then on Friday, we'll figure something else out.
Yeah.
But at least those 2 times and say, hey, this is what we're going to cook. And we talk about it on the way home. But then we get home, it's already prepared. That's less time that we have to worry about that. We're sitting at the table. We're now having a conversation about how his day went, how things are going on with him. I think that's important as a leader. And one thing I already kind of said, the 5th one would be a lifelong learner. Like, just don't say it, be it. You have to, you have to read. You have to be in the conversations with the other leaders to kind of figure out what's going well and what's not going well, and how can you make changes in your building. And I'll give you a 6th one. It's like surrounding yourself with like-minded people.
Yeah. Yes.
And I know you asked 5, but I'm sorry to get you surrounding yourself with like-minded people.
Mm-hmm.
That's really how you have those conversations, and they can help you fill in those gaps as well. That benefits you also.
Yeah. You had me going a bunch of different places, man. I got so many things I want to ask you. Hey, everybody, this is Matthew Mason. I am the host of the Hot School Leaders Podcast. Look, I just wanted to take a second to tell you thank you. Yep, just want to tell you thank you for showing up every Thursday for our guest, for some time just to be honest, open, and transparent. The goal of this podcast, the goal of this YouTube channel is to inspire, to encourage, and to challenge you in your leadership journey. And as we are growing as school leaders, making sure we're better and showing up every day for all of the stakeholders who are in our schools. Look, I just want to take a couple seconds to ask you to do a couple of things. First off, I need you to share. Then I need you to follow. I need you to like. I need you to comment. I need you to subscribe. I need you to do all of those things, because when you do that, it's going to keep pushing us out there. We're going to get more resources and hopefully make this thing better for you every week. So again, if you can subscribe to the channel, make sure you follow the podcast. We're on Apple and we're on Spotify. Make sure you comment, because when you comment, it lets us know how we can get better. Make sure you do all of the things that I shared earlier. So again, we're hot leaders. We're honest, open, and transparent. Again, I tell you, thank you. Let's get to the episode. So that's what I was going to ask you. Walk us through that conversation with a staff member when you said, or a staff member and family, where you don't see eye to eye. Because some people are good at that, man. They handle that stuff well. I know for me personally, I did not. At the beginning, having those I just finished a book called Critical Conversations. And you don't know, my issue was I didn't always tell the full truth. I would try to sugarcoat stuff so that you wouldn't be upset. What I found was that I would just come back around to the same problem again, because we never really addressed the issue. I just tried to make sure you were happy by the end of it, and then I felt like we were cool. How do you address critical conversations with?
I think the first thing you have to do is build trust, especially with families. When I was at another school, I received phone calls, and it was like, Ms. Millner, this is about to take place. And as I was able to kind of have and really interact with that, kind of work through that situation as quick as possible, it helped to build trust. So as I built the trust in that situation, so when other things came up, and it might not have went the way that they wanted to, it might be a disciplinary problem in the classroom, around the building from their child. We now can talk it through. So they kind of feel like, he does what he can. He's on our side. We understand he can't give us everything. But I think building trust and having a conversation, sometimes just having conversations when they call and talking through things, and you can maybe, I like to crack jokes every now and again.
Yeah.
So I like to kind of, like bring it down a little bit and say some things like we're talking about, in this interview, like I'm listening, and maybe I can come bring something back and help them, like, hey, make the atmosphere a little bit lighter for them. I think that's one thing. But then when you're talking to a teacher, you kind of really lead with the data. And it's also when you say build the trust, like you build the trust, like you're doing things on the front end, like going in the classroom, having conversations, asking them how they're doing, how the day's going. You're learning things about them. Like maybe you ask them, how was your weekend? How's your family? Like if you play golf, how did you go play golf this weekend? Maybe start a conversation. A small conversation leads into big conversation.
Yeah.
So therefore, when it comes back around and you have to have a real conversation with them about a courageous conversation, now you still leading with that data, but you built on the front end that trust.
Gotcha. Okay.
But that data leads your conversation, especially with the teachers. You have to lay this out. This is what we're doing. Again, as I said earlier, families send the best to us that they have. Our job is to help navigate that. So we want to really coach those teachers up to that point. And when parents don't see eye to eye all the time, sometimes you just got to be real with them. And I've done that. Like we'll just agree to disagree on this.
Yeah.
This is kind of how we're going to follow. We're following the guidelines, the protocol set by a certain school district. So, we'll have to do that. But I think at the beginning, you have to build that trust with those families.
Do you feel like, as you have been, let's say we get to those times where you're talking to a family and it's like, hey, look, we're just going to have to agree to disagree. Do you feel like what you get out of that is we may disagree, there's respect that's at least built there?
I think that's it. The respect is the key. And it goes back to when the kid walks through the door, we have 2 campuses here. So walking through the door, when they get off the bus, they come up the ramp. I'm one of the first faces they're going to see is me. So that means you might not have been in my office at all this year, but you maybe have said, well, Mom, that's Mr. Millner, da 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 da. He might not know me, but he knows a little bit about me.
Yeah.
So I think that builds that trust. And I think that way you can kind of go, I've had conversations, well, Mr. Millner, he said this about you. You said you're fair. I think that's important when parents kind of feel that. You got to be fair, you gotta be consistent, and a lot of times you got to be firm. And I think you get those, like we were taught, fair, firm, and consistent. It helps out a lot.
Something that I always heard you say is we sell education.
We do.
What does that mean?
I mean, every day it's like buying a car. Like sometimes when you buy a car, you go out there and you want to buy it, but then you're like, man, I don't really, if you paid off another car, you're like, I don't want to go into more debt. I really don't. I can do without this. However, when you got that good salesman, they treat you very well. Maybe they come in, get you some coffee or water or some donuts and have conversations. They work the plan out to help you to be successful in your financial graces and say, you really want this car. Like it has all the specs that you want. And I think that's the same thing for education. As teachers, like I said earlier, when they come in that building, a lot of families, school wasn't their thing, but they send kids here because they understand. Like for me, my parents, like school was a vehicle to something different. You won't work into a factory. So I think, and that's how I always kind of think of it when I sell education is I've got to help them to understand education is a passport to a different life. A person that's got a high school diploma, college educated, or going with a high school diploma and I go to the military, a high school diploma, I get a 2-year degree, a high school diploma, I get my CDL, opens more doors for someone who doesn't. So I think we got to help them to understand that they're great. And how do I get that greatness out of you? You can write. You all can write. You can be wonderful writers. But how do I maximize that opportunity so you can see it? So I have to sell that to them. And that's the energy that I have to bring. And I want all of our teachers to bring that energy on a day-to-day basis. Like I get on the microphone every morning and say, this is the best, the last thing I say, make this the best day of the week. If it's Friday, make this the best Friday this week. And they've asked me, Mr. Millner, what do you mean? It's only one Friday a week. I know, but we're going to make this the best one of this week. And that's like, I've told a lot of them get 1% better. So I think selling education is really, how do you maximize the potential of every student, every person in the building that comes through this door?
So as you have now done this for as long as you have, for somebody who is trying to maybe walk into becoming a new administrator, maybe eventually a principal, what are some landmines or some pitfalls you feel like, hey, in some of these things you're just going to have to hit, right? Like time is just, it is what it is. You're going to hit it. You're going to grow from it. But what are some things that maybe help them so that they don't hit some of these landmines, or at least they don't fall so hard?
I think you have to learn that you have to be present. And being present means I got to show people that I want to do this. Like anybody can go to the finer institutions of learning and get all the education they want, but you got to put in that work. And I think really it's about putting in the work, putting in the time. That means at the high school level, you're going to have 10,000 extracurricular activities. But if you start to go and even go to ones that you don't like, if you go to activities and you start seeing, the administration see you, they're here doing this.
Yeah.
Going into meetings and say, hey, such and such principal, I want to get some learn. I want to learn a little bit about how do y'all disaggregate this data? What are we doing? What's going on? Learning a little bit about that. So when administrators are seeing it, they're talking. They're talking to their other colleagues saying, hey, such and such over here is hungry.
So I'm going to interrupt because, again, appreciating your support on that, because I remember working that summer with you all and the same things you told me.
Right.
So I remember walking in the next year I was on the safety team.
Right.
Like I was helping put all the things, because I think we had a safety audit that year. So I was working with Gina Jones and we were putting all those things together. I remember trying to make sure when it was getting time for master scheduling, jumping in on those meetings, like any meeting that I could be in. I remember I was working with one particular assistant principal, and I remember y'all were like, again, just being hungry. I would do her referrals, but then I would jump into the other ones and do their referrals. So it became like, even though we had a bunch of interns there, like I was a go-to because they knew Mason was going to jump in and anything he was available, he going to knock it out. So I just want to say I appreciate you all for that hunger. That's what you're talking about.
And that's really what and that's really everything you just described is what it is. And you also like, and I remember that summer, like it was hot.
Yes.
We wore shirt and tie every day.
Every day.
And the reason of that is I had a situation where I didn't come dressed one time. And I knew leading that, and I remember talking to Dr. Wilson, and she said some things to me, and she gave me the keys to the summer school program. And then it kind of stuck. I mean, it wasn't negative, but she was like pumping me up and firing me up to get it to do it. And in my mind, I said, I got to dress every day like I'm the principal of this building. It might be summer school to some people, but to me, I'm principal of this building.
Yeah.
And even if she came by one day and we all had shirts and ties, and now she's looking at, oh, this is my next set of leaders right here. And I think that's important for people. Like you have to look the part, looking the part, being the part. You already thinking, I am that person.
Yeah.
I want to be an AP. So I'm going to sit myself in the corner, in the spot of doing AP stuff and every time. And I'm not going to say anything about it. Like it might be a lot of work. It might be a lot of time, but this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Not what anybody else. This is what I want to do. So I think that's very, very important, is just showing people that you're hungry.
And I would add to that for those of you out there, something you said that's real good too is don't complain. Be very careful about who you share your frustrations with. So like you said, find individuals who are like-minded. So we tend to meet up every so often. And then that's our time to kind of let our hair down a little bit. Some of us have more hair, but that's our time to let our hair down. But I don't do that with everybody, because if you do that with a lot of different people, those things can get back to the individuals who could promote you, right? And so when you smile in your leader's face when you're in front of them, but then you complain a little bit later on to the wrong person, and they find that out, now you're hampering your promotions. So I agree with them totally on that. Be careful who you're complaining to, and just get to a point where honestly you're just not complaining. Like, this is what you want to do, and if this is what you want to do, then go for it, man. Work as hard as you can, because the doors will open. Like right now, again, came an assistant principal, been a principal. I've become a principal multiple places, and then the other gentleman, Dr. Frazier, is a superintendent right now, right? So we've climbed that ladder, but I think a lot of that is just our work ethic.
Definitely. And every day you have to always remember, we talk about dressing up certain times in 90-degree weather, and it's so humid and you're sweating.
In an outdoor campus.
Yes, in an outdoor campus. But you're dressing the part, and you're dressing, like I said this earlier, like you're looking that part and you're being that part. And I think you're interviewing every day.
Yeah.
Every day is an interview.
Yeah.
So you never know who's coming through the door, who's going to see you. You never know what teacher you got in your building is like, well, Jeff Miller's working hard. Matthew Mason, and I see him hustle. He's doing that all the time. And and there are activities after school. He's at that activity. I went to this play, and he was there. He brought his kids there. I mean, those are things that people are gonna see. Teachers are some of your biggest spokespersons.
Yep.
And they gotta understand, like, you got us, you're gonna support us, you're gonna push us, you're gonna motivate us. And they gotta see the hunger too, because you never know, you might become an administrator in the building that you teach in.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different category. I've done that.
Yeah.
And it's different. It's totally different. But the people that you work beside, and now you gotta lead.
Yeah. And one of the things that we did too during the summer, we did observations.
Yes.
So I remember we actually, like, again, it's crazy to look on now, because I'm able to see now where we went above and beyond. Like during the summer program, you don't have to do observations. You don't have to we had speakers come in to talk to the students. You don't have to do that. We knew that we had kids going to high school. So instead of lining them up and walking them down the hall, we let them go to lunch on their own. We just stationed ourselves in particular places, but we just knew we were preparing these kids for high school. We knew that some of our students were students who they needed the individuals to come and speak to them. And looking back on it, I see that we didn't have to do those things. But because we went above and beyond, it's very hard now when you're always going above and beyond to then get to another place and not go above and beyond. Because you're just not wired. So I wanted to hit that because just sitting there thinking about it, you're talking, I was like, yo, we have people come speak to the kids.
Yeah, I mean, I think having programs set up for them, even in some, people might hear it and say like summer school, but you're losing the instructional time. But I think also it helps them, talk about that whole kid, help that whole kid, which again, they're in summer school for various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be that one little thing said to get them over the hump. I remember when we talked about, and I think I was the one like, well, y'all asked, like, how they gonna go to lunch? And I said, well, just let them go. And,
go.
I got a high school background,
right.
And y'all were like middle school, like, this ain't what happens.
Right.
This is not
walk
what
these
happens.
kids in a line because if you like, and again, I hate to jump in, but you're sitting on some good stuff. Working with leaders that are different levels is powerful too, because I know now looking back at all that was said out of fear. Right? Like I can't control them. If I don't have them in a line walking to wherever, I can't control them. You bringing that up, being like, well, why can't we?
Right.
Was a shift. So it's like, no, you can let them do that. That doesn't mean you don't prepare and put people at different locations to monitor them. So we're not just letting the kids just run around campus, but they did it. Like they did what we expected them to do.
And then it's funny that you say that because we did that. We were almost do like a release. It was a tag off, but we weren't like, we're going to walk you. We kept you in eye distance and the kids performed. But again, for me, I didn't know any better. I thought it was where, I come from high school. Y'all like, nah. But I think when you also set kids up for success, they will be successful.
Mm-hmm.
They only know what they know. So when you get them out of a comfort zone or something different, they can do it. We just got to get them to that point. And I think that program or that summer opportunity was a lot of those kids. We could see some of the kids and we saw that growth and we saw how they were able to do certain things where people probably thought they couldn't. I mean, it wasn't like we had the easiest two schools put together. We didn't have that. We had some kids that had some background.
Mm-hmm.
However, they could, but they felt like they could talk to us. They felt like they could communicate with, we could laugh, we could jokes, but they also knew that we were serious at the same time.
And you were big on being around. So even at lunchtime, we were in there with them. We were talking to them. When we did observations, like we did not just sit in the office. We got out in the office. We went in the classroom. When the kids were transitioning between things, we were out there talking with them. Mm-hmm. We were out there talking to the staff. I remember having calls with parents, like whether they were behavioral things, and calling them. Like for us, this was no different than having school. And it makes sense now because, again, how much more should your summer program be solid? Because you have the kids who are coming in who obviously it didn't work well during the regular school year. So we got to be on point.
And they only have a few weeks to do so.
They only have a few weeks, right?
But you also, for me, at that point, I was the AP, the only AP, sitting AP at that point. But I wanted to pour into you guys to say, man, I wanted to show you guys something that I've learned to help you guys to say, because I knew you guys were next.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to show you, like, boom, this is what like you and I kind of walked in a couple observations together. Mm-hmm. And I said, this is what when you first walk in, this is what you're looking for. Boom, 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 boom. And we kind of went from there. And I think, it was just really prepping all the way around for what was next. And it was just we're not going to do it like an ordinary summer program.
Right.
We're going to run it like a real school.
Right.
So I think that's big. And I think even when they come through the door from August to June or May or whatever, I still want kids to do that. I still believe in that. I still believe in checking on kids. I still believe in checking on teachers. I still believe in all of that. I still believe every day I'm being visible. I always say we can't sleep. We got to keep moving. Every day's got to keep moving. I sometimes use a Lil Wayne quote or something, just so they'll know things. So
kids like it when you know them. You ain't got to act like the kid, but you do got to know what they listen to. I have a daughter in middle school, so I will tell you it's the best thing in the world because I know all the tea, know all the new songs. And we just went to a Tyler the Creator concert. So I'm like, without my daughter, would never have known who this individual is now. Kind of like Tyler. Tyler's pretty cool.
So, and I think that's important. I think it's important, but you're listening to kids.
Yeah.
And again, we're servicing kids, you know, but kids like a variety of things. But if they know you listening to them, oh, okay, he kind of listened to me. He kind of rock with me.
So how do you connect? So I think this sometimes, how do you connect kids to an adult in your building? Because just like you said, they're into a lot of different things. So just because I may be into rap, or if I'm into gospel, or if I'm into certain types of anime, like how do I connect? Because I'm not going to connect with every kid. Let me rephrase that, because sometimes I think that lets you off the hook. I do need to connect with every kid in some way, but I may not be that kid's go-to. So how do I get kids to get a go-to adult?
I think, again, it's knowing the people in your building. You've got to listen more, talk less. You ask a few questions, because sometimes teachers will say, no one's ever asked me, any questions. Like, again, recently, just a joke, like one of the teachers was talking about, hey, Mr. Millner, hey, Jeff, let's go. We should go play golf. And I was like, nope, I'm not going to play with you. You're going to play on PGA Tour, on facilities. That's not me. I'm going out here killing trees and everything else. But I say that to say this. It's about knowing your teachers. It's about going, being visible, having conversations with teachers. And then you can kind of, they'll kind of let loose a little bit and talk about what they like. And then you can maybe say, hey, such and such, you can go, he's got this problem, this issue. Maybe, go talk to this teacher right here to kind of help them, because they know how to deal with it, because they like. I think really knowing your staff is very, very important. Like knowing where they're from, how many kids they got, where they maybe went to college. So small things like that is very, very important, married or not married, small things,
So you brought up your calendar. I know it took me a long time to get to a point where my calendar is my most important weapon. Right? Not to hurt anybody, but it is the weapon that I use to kind of ward off all the fires that take away from me being able to get to know my staff, get to know my kids, get to know my community members. Like, what are some strategies that you use to just make sure that you are locked in when you get in the building?
First and foremost, I share that calendar with the front office staff. And
That's smart.
And the things that I tell them, if the building's not on fire, no one's bleeding, rescue is not called, the police, I'm in this class.
Yeah.
And they know.
Yeah.
If a phone call comes about, they say, well, hey, Mr. Millner's not, he's busy right now. He'll call you back. And they'll make sure I get the message. They'll take it and put it on a hard copy, and they'll put it on my mailbox, and they'll turn it backwards to make sure that I know that's the signal for, you got to call this parent today.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important piece. And they learn it, and they like, okay, I got you. This is what he's doing. He's supporting this. But also, I think for me is planning the calendar, not coming in that day, planning the calendar. I like to, as we talk about teachers, creating lesson plans for the week or whatever. I sit down on Sunday night and I write I'm meal prepping. I'm at that point. This is my prep time. I'm prepping for the week. Now I'm figuring out, I'm looking at my calendar, my schedule, like, okay, I've seen these teachers right here. I've done a walkthrough. I've done formal observations. So where do I need to go? What spots do I need to hit? And I'm looking at throughout the week, like, where can I go in the rotation? Right. So I've hit Miss Hutton first period. So maybe 2 weeks ago. So now it's 2 weeks later, I want to hit her third period. See how, this
Different
class
blocks,
is going. Yeah. And I think that's very important. So maybe this class level is taught at, maybe it's a algebra 1 taught first period. Maybe it's a algebra 2 taught third period. I want to see different levels and see what's, how the instruction's going on, how to compare and contrast. I think that's important. But I think really creating that calendar for me on a Sunday is my go-to day. The weekend is kind of relaxed, is kind of chill. My son's doing homework. He's doing his thing. I'm doing my thing. I think that's very, very important when it comes to the calendar. Your meetings, when you talk about meetings, like PLC meetings, that's something we've gotten better at. We put those on the front end.
Yeah.
Like the summertime, we come out of summer break, and we have teachers start putting them on your calendar then. So I now can make my calendar around everything else. So if I have to have a meeting and the front office staff sees it, like I might do an interview. When it gets to the later part, we have to interview future candidates and things of that matter too. I'll let the front office make the phone call, but they can see it and say, I'll give them a block of time. And they know how to, schedule it. They do an excellent job with scheduling that opportunity at that time. I think really being sharing it, transparent, things like that is very good. And I mean, the team sees it, so they kind of know who's got a day on, who's got a day off, meaning like, what's going to take place. Like we try to do a day on, a day off, meaning you have one day on your instruction, the next day, it's you're working on referrals and things like that. But also when they see that, I know in my mind, we have a lull the first period so that I can get in and can do about 2 or 3 walkthroughs.
Right.
And walkthroughs don't have to be 20, but, 10, 15 minutes. So I can get in and do a couple of those. And now I'm instructing on where the kids are.
Yeah.
So now I can also do some discipline and knock that out to support teachers on another end as well. So I think that's important.
How do you, as you're doing those walkthroughs, you're getting in, what is your feedback style?
Well,
helping staff.
I think I like to type it up as I'm in there.
Okay.
So when I'm doing my formals, I'm typing everything up, and I hit submit. My goal is to hit submit every time I'm in there.
Okay.
So they'll have it.
Yeah.
But also I'm following up with an email. Thank you for allowing me into your learning environment. I would like, if it's formal, I know we have to meet. So we had to do a meeting and I had to write everything up. So with the formal, I'm sending an email saying, hey, I would like to meet with you on, do you have some time available on Tuesday? If it's Monday, Tuesday or Thursday, let me know what time works best, what day and time works best for you. That way they're leading it. They're picking their time, not me dictating it to them. So they got a little say into this. If it's a walkthrough in between classes, I'll kind of meet them, have a quick conversation.
Like
hey, I saw that, standing third, and have a quick conversation with them. But I'm also typing that up also so they can get that feedback too.
Yeah.
But I like the comment, like also being able to kind of have a quick conversation with them in between classes, or even before that day's over, if I can't hit them all. So they'll know, like, he's in there and he's talking to me. He's giving it back. I think it's good to tell them the good things they're doing. Some things, I saw this, so some things that they can work on, some glows and grows.
Yeah. I think something that when I got into leadership, I used to think teachers really didn't want feedback for whatever reason. And I've seen how that's honestly a lie. Like, especially what I have found is what they don't want is feedback 3 weeks later. Like if you came in my room and I know you're in my room, like stop trying to hide and act like, hey, no, I'm just in here. No, you're in here to do an observation. Well, if you see something, let me know today, no later than tomorrow if possible, because then I can change things. But 3 weeks from it's the same way we do with students, right? If I give you an assessment today and I'll give you a grade back till 3 weeks from now, I mean, it's kind of tough. Now I've been sitting on bad answers there for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So go ahead and do that. I like what you said, try to hit submit before I leave out. And then I'm immediately trying to say, hey, like, how can we meet up to go over this?
And
that's good.
And I've seen a lot of teachers, when I do it that way, they'll respond within the 24 hours.
Yeah.
They're going to boom right back. And then we just start having that conversation. I think at that point, it's about collegial conversations. How do we grow? What are you seeing? But also within that, I didn't say this, but I usually have a notebook also. But in my notebook, I'm charting things.
Yeah.
I think that's very important. So again, data leading the conversation. I might have seen you ask the same young men on the right-hand side to answer your questions. What about the young people on the left-hand side? They only had 2 questions, and kind of see it, and kind of, because sometimes as teachers, we're going to go to the people that are going to give us the answers. That's a comfort zone for some people, because a comfort zone for me. Like I'm going to go to the person that's going to make, give me the answer, but and then we talk about ways to kind of, just doing it in general. That's why I have my notebook out there.
Yeah.
Because I want to chart as much as I can on the back end to support them also. And to kind of enhance that instruction.
So mentoring. So you do or have done some really big things with mentoring. I know we'll talk a little about mentoring young men. You do things to mentor young ladies as well. Something you've done, I'm gonna let you speak on it. You've done a big program at Thomasdale that is getting the men of the community to come in and do some really cool things with them. Can you elaborate on that?
What we do is We started this at Virginia Randolph. This was the thing. My principal at that time, Jesse Casey. You know, when the kids come back the first day, they high five, shake hands. In my mind, after reading one of Principal Kafele's books, I was like, well, why we can't do this throughout the year? So the following year, I was like, how can I do that? So we utilized the community to come in, and the kids will get off the bus and they high five, talk to them, wave at them, you congratulate them, say we can do this. I thought that was very important.
Yeah.
But this year, what we put on as a layer is I had a lot of help to rebrand it, the 100 Men Challenge. I went to another school and saw it in December as we rebranded it out in my current school. I wanted to also get more kids involved. I wanted to get kids involved, meaning 7 years ago, content creation was on the infancy stage.
Yeah.
Now it's on a big stage.
Yep.
We have kids now that if you go out to the football fields, basketball, or wherever, these kids are creating content.
All the time.
They're prom pictures, whatever. So I wanted to get some of those kids involved. I thought that was important so they can not just be involved, but they diversifying what they're doing and other people. And I'm also showing them and saying, hey, these are the kids that are doing da-da-da-da. And I'm talking to the stakeholders the external stakeholders to see what they're doing. And so they can follow them on Instagram or wherever, what they're doing. So maybe they got young kids or whatever, nieces or nephews. A lot of them take pictures. They do video. You see them doing videos on the sidelines. One right now, I think our football program went to Virginia Tech, and he was doing the videos as they were playing 7-on-7. Increased the following for our basketball team. He's going to probably increase the following for our football team. He's done things with Nike. We have another young lady. She just graduated, is going to Hampton. She does phenomenal work. But I think to get down to the nitty gritty is utilizing the people within the building to help you build this. Because I would have never met that young lady if it wasn't for someone else who said, hey, this girl can do X, Y, and Z. And when she came in, I saw her work, the pictures, and someone said, she is good. I said, oh yeah, she's good. And she's done a lot of things, from promoting things like a lot of Center for the Arts programs we've done. She's helped promote that. Before she goes to the prom, she's taking prom pictures of someone else. That's the kind of work we got kids. So I wanted to get them out there as well, our content creator. I thought that was very important. But also bringing stakeholders in, not just to see what's going on in the building, because I'm very transparent with that, but also wanting to say, they got next. They got next. These kids in this building got next. If I'm in IT, this kid in 5-6 years he needs to know what steps to take. I think that's very important. I have a fraternity bro. I just use him for example. He's a retired medical doctor, so he's able to help kids navigate that want to go in that field. So when you have 100 men, because data shows we don't have as many men in the building teaching, so it's important for them to see it. That's first and foremost why I went here. But also having them an opportunity, because when you're working with freshmen, they're not thinking about 4 or 5 years from now. They're thinking about what's in the next 30 seconds. Or when I get out of school, what game am I going to play? I'm going to play 2K. And who am I going to play on 2K?
Yeah.
Versus the real thing is, how am I going to prepare for my job?
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to prepare for my career, my college, military out here? So that's why I believe in that. I believe in helping kids navigate. Families send the best that they have to us each day. How do we get the best out of those individuals?
So, wrapping up, what is one thing? I'm going to say one thing. For those who are trying to get into this field, we've talked about it a little bit. What's one thing you would leave, or multiples? You tend not to do just one.
I think I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna use a quote from a rap song. You got to walk it like you talk it. If you want to be an administrator, you can't just say it. You got to show and prove each and every day. There will be some bumps in the road. There are going to be bumps in the road.
Yeah.
But you got to be around the right people to help you navigate that situation. And I think, again, like I said earlier, get yourself in the room.
Yeah.
Like I remember meeting with Dr. Monroe, and Miss Bell, when she was taking over Highland Springs, and I was absent in the office, he was like, "Nah, Jeff, I need you to sit right here. I need you to sit right here, and you can tell us some things too." And I mean, for me, she was a leader that was a renowned leader in the greater, in the greater Richmond area, greater Virginia area. And I'm like, what am I going to tell her? But
real quick,
yes,
kudos to Pam Bell and Dr. Monroe, because it shows consistency, because Dr. Monroe did the same to me. Dr. Monroe, when I was working with him, if something was going on, he would be like, Mason, come here and sit down, just to be in the room to see what was going on. So I want to say kudos to both of them, because there are a lot of administrators who have come from y'all's tree.
yes.
Who learned from y'all. Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're fine. You're absolutely right. And I think, when he said that to me, and I'm like, she elite, like she's already rocking out elementary school. She's going to take but I think just to be in the room, to learn, to talk, to have a conversation, not even say nothing, just to listen.
Yeah.
And they know that face.
Yeah.
I think that's important. Get a seat at the table. Bring your own chair if you need to. Bring your own chair. I think that's important. Very important.
All right. I got 3 questions. I'm going to ask now. These are fun questions. All right. First off, give us a book. Give us a resource or a book that you feel like has impacted you. And I really want you to pick one. what is like one book that you are like, man, if there is any book that you could read, this is the one.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Making me do one. I'm gonna go to John Gordon, The Energy Bus.
Okay.
I think that was a good read, and he's a phenomenal author. The Energy Bus is a great read.
Energy Bus, I like that.
Getting the people on your bus, bringing the right energy on your bus, maximizing potentials, all of which you have each and every day.
So the next question is that you have at your dinner table, so this is excluding you get to pick 5 people, dead or alive, that you would have at your table.
My son.
Okay.
My mom, my dad, my grandmother, and my son's grandmother that passed away before he was born.
So why those? Because many people pick, famous individuals. And so everybody knows, we've actually done this interview probably like 4 or 5, 3. We've done it 3 times. So I knew this answer was coming, but I'm always fascinated when I hear it, because he's the first individual who literally his table is his family. So why them?
I say my son, because he's like, when we keep saying, I've said the most important person people send to school is the kids. Yeah. He's my number one.
Yeah.
I do this for him.
Yeah.
He's my why. That's important. My parents, that's part of the family. That's part of history. Him sharing. And my grandmother passed away probably about 5 to 6 years ago. So she was like my number one woman. Like grandma, I spent all the summers and time with grandma. She shared a lot of knowledge with me and a lot of time with me. We shared a lot of likes and a lot of, interests together. And he was young when she passed away. So him to be in the table, have those conversations with her, I think is very, very important. She just showed me a lot. And she was the matriarch of our family for so many years. And I think, to lock in and see that would be phenomenal. And then to see his other grandmother that passed away. He passed away a month before he was born. And boy, she wanted to see this boy, and it made anything. But for him to really sit down, I mean, his mom shared some stories, his grandfather shared stories. I've shared stories about it. But for him to sit down and to know this woman and talk with this woman, I mean, she was a great woman. I think would be great for him.
That's what's up.
I think he's about family too. It's really, it would be great for him.
Last question. Who is one person you feel like would be great to have on the podcast, but it has to be somebody that you can help us get?
Gave me my numbers.
Yeah.
Well,
on this regard though, you can pick as many people as you want, as long as you can help us.
Okay. Well, I would start here. I would say years ago, I read this book, Lead Like a Pirate, Beth Huff. I had a chance. I went to nationals last year, and I had an opportunity to meet her in person and hear her speak. phenomenal leader, phenomenal person. I think she'll be great for your podcast. I know she'll be great for your podcast. Also, like Robert Stevens, who's a leader over in another district, Brad Austin, great leaders, great individuals I've watched grow. And also Dr. McLaurin. He's a leader that has Dr. Anthony McLaurin has been in leadership in various schools, and he's made changes and success in a lot of different schools.
Okay.
And he is a community-based individual. Yeah.
Cool. Well, look, man, I appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
I think this is going to be the last time we're going to have to do this interview. Hope so. But appreciate you all being a part of this. Got way more leaders to come, but I'm definitely happy to get this one done because this individual who means a ton to me has helped me out in this journey of being a leader. So stay hot, keep leading.